It's a twisted and very disturbing story from Tennessee, a true adoption nightmare. It all started with a missing boy, which unraveled a web of alleged child abuse and more. This is the story of the Gray family in DBL's True Crime Chronicles.
This is Michael and Shirley Gray. The couple grew up in Mississippi, where they raised their two biological kids. Once their kids got older, they moved to 10 Mile, a small community near Knoxville, Tennessee. That's where they decided to adopt 5 children over the span of 5 years. From the outside, it seemed like a normal, big family, but on the inside, pure torture. It all unraveled on May 22nd, 2020. An 11-year-old boy was spotted walking alone on a road.
Drew the attention of 2 people passing by. They contacted 911.
He was one of the Grays' adopted sons and told police he and his sibling were being held captive in their basement. But what he said next was even more disturbing.
He made a statement about a child being deceased and being buried in the backyard.
Police swarmed the Grays' home, and after questioning, Michael admitted to burying his dead 11-year-old daughter in his backyard in 2017.
They did find a skull, and at that point, the anthropology folks in the forensic center were called.
Police later discovered that little girl was locked in the basement as punishment for stealing food and died weeks later. During the search, 3 of the Grays' adopted children were found and recovered. Michael and Shirley were arrested.
Michael, do you have anything to say?
And then, a week later, while the Grays are in custody, detectives find a second body buried outside their biological son's home in Knox County. That body was another child the Grays adopted.
We were charged with 4 counts of felony murder.
Murder and child abuse charges. The couple allegedly starved their kids in filthy conditions.
Had no running water and no electricity. Inside this room was a bucket that was filled with human feces and urine.
The 3 surviving children weren't cared for in years. Little to no food, no education, and no doctor visits.
It is hard and it's ugly, the things that people will do to children.
So why did they do it? The couple was getting paid by the state monthly to care for these kids. Little is known, but for now the focus is on the kids and their long road to recovery.
The goal is to help these children understand that they're not bad and they didn't do anything wrong.
If the Grays are found guilty, they could get the death sentence.
Earlier, Tori and Al spoke with a reporter who is following this case. Take a look.
We're joined by senior investigative journalist John North from 10 News in Knoxville, Tennessee. All right, John, these kids were adopted and should have gone to a loving home. Instead, the worst happened. They were living in horrific conditions. What was that like for them, and how are the 2 surviving kids doing today? This breaks my heart.
Tori, it is a tough story to talk about. It's been a shocking one. They were put in terrible conditions, like you say. At least a couple of them were kept in a cage or confined downstairs. They were given very little food. At least one of them was given a bucket to use for the bathroom. It's that kind of conditions, if you can imagine. It's horrible enough to think about a grown-up, but they were doing this to children.
John, I'm going to ask you a question that I hope you can't answer. Do we know why the parents did this? Like, what could possibly have been their motive?
Al, it looks like from the records that we've got and from what the prosecution has said, that they basically were using the children for the money that they got, because they got payments for taking care of these adoptive children. That was kind of the trust that was given to them. We'll let you take care of these children, we'll pay you, but let's make sure you do a good job in looking after them. And the evidence is that they were not doing that at all. They were just happy to have the money.
This is like my worst crime for me. It touches, when you hurt a child, it's so different. The parents and their oldest son all pled not guilty. So, John, where does the case stand now? What's coming up next?
So it spans 2 counties. The elder couple is facing murder charges in one county where the first body was found of one of their children in the yard. And we now have a second case that involves, as you say, the elder parents and their natural-born son. because another body was found in the yard of this house in the second county. And those are murder cases as well. Everybody is in custody. We've got a court date coming up, I think, next month. We don't know if the death penalty is going to be sought. There's been a hint of that, but that is never a simple thing to pursue, as you guys know.
Yeah, we were just saying how I said I'm not for the death penalty personally, but in cases like this, it's very hard to not think that way, to be super honest with everyone. Do you feel the same way, John?
There are some cases that you look at and you go, yeah, that could be a death case. And then there's some that you're like, no, that's not going to be one. This is one that I think arguably you could say the prosecution will take a hard look at. But we also have to be honest, in today's society, the prosecution doesn't go for the death very often. It's just pretty rare.
Yeah, very true. Well, thank you for keeping this case publicized. I know it's kind of gotten lost a bit, and we want to keep it in the headlines. For the latest on this case and to learn more, please visit WBIR.com. You can also listen to a new podcast episode about this case. Just search True Crime Chronicles on your favorite podcast player. John, thanks for keeping this in the headlines. We'll be right back.